The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to the Fine to Fab Show with Lisa Lieberman-Wang, helping women reclaim their inner peace and power, going from feeling fine to being fab, fabulous, awesome, beautiful, serving to empower you to break through the barriers that weigh you down, to live an authentic life that is healthy, happy, and free. Now, here's Lisa.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lisa Lieberman-Wang, your trusted guide on your journey from going from fine to fab. And I'm excited today because I have a special guest, a friend, an unbelievable woman that I'll be sharing some information with and you'll be hearing from shortly, Dr. Kim Bonniksen. But before that, I want to just remind you that we are committed to helping women break through the barriers that weigh them down. And we're going to be opening up the lines later. If you'd like to join us, you'll be able to call in at 561-422-4365 or Skype in at WN Radio. That's Women for Women, W4WN Radio. Remember to mute your phone when you do because we'll call you in, but you'll be live as soon as you connect with us, so keep it muted until we acknowledge you. You can also make sure you're part of our list and know what's going on with the community by texting the keyword Fine to Fab to 90210, that's 90210, and hit send. Facebook me, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can find me at Lisa Lieberman-Wang and also go to our site, finetofab.com. So I'm excited to share some information with you. We're going to be talking about a subject, obviously it's very close to my heart, and fortunately I had this pleasure of meeting this phenomenal woman that shared a past history with me that was very similar. We had met by fate, but I'll explain that in a moment. But I want to tell you a little bit about Kim. Dr. Kimberly Bonniksen is the founder of the Legend People research and marketing firm, creator of Legend-based marketing approach, the most primitive and modern approach to marketing. Dr. Bonniksen is a former director of research for Business Breakthrough International, a Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes company, has facilitated the path to legendary status for hundreds of clients over the globe, from small business owners to giants like universities of Phoenix, Costco's, and U.S. banks. Dr. Bonniksen is an author of Aesop, Ancient Master of Persuasion and Legend Building, Ancient Wisdom for Radically Better Branding, and co-author of National Association of K-12 Online Learning National Standards of Quality for Online Learning Programs. You can find her book also on Amazon.com. With degrees in educational leadership, technologies, literature, and communication, I'm going to just say Dr. Kim is a longtime advocate for languages and stories of Native populations. And by following her proprietary legend building formula, I've been really fortunate to be part of something that you'll hear momentarily, but backed by their cutting edge research, they've consistently achieved increased lead generation for their clients for up to a factor of 90 times more, maxed out sales conversions by a factor of up to 50, which of course has given them really happy customers with nice margins. And you'll be hearing more about that later. But why I have Kim on this show today is because Kim and I met through the Tony Robbins world, but it wasn't even a Tony Robbins event that we met at. It was a tour at a Zappos. We decided to tour the facility while we're in Vegas, and we ended up being in the same group and totally connected when I shared with her my vision for Fine to Fab and helping women go from feeling effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional to fabulous, awesome, beautiful. And my history had come from many years of being challenged with eating disorders, with compulsively overeating, binging, purging, and starving, doing bulimia as well as other things. And when we started talking, Kim's marketing experience was just unbelievable, the way she thought, and totally outside the box. impressed me, and we just bonded and didn't know why the relationship would go there, but it just continued. And I'll let Kim share more later. But I want to just introduce you to my friend and my marketing consultant, as well as I'll let her share other pieces of it. My editor from my book, Find to Fab, Kimberly. You with me, Kim?
Woohoo! Yes.
So I'm excited that you're here, and this is just going to be a fun interview because we're always talking together, but you're such a wealth of information, and I think your story is one that's not told often enough of even, how we connected and how many other people, as we know from all the research we did when we created my legend for Find to Fab, of different people challenged out there with different disordered eating and eating disorders and life challenges and how people are dealing with it. So can you start by just giving me and our listeners, a little story about a background about you and some of the challenges you had overcome and how we connected?
Would love to. So I was touring Zappos with a good friend and colleague of mine, Tom Schaff, and there were only two of us, and I think 4 or 5 in Lisa's group had never met Lisa or Yardley at that point, but we just got lumped into this group together. So as we toured Zappos, Yardley, by the way, if you have never met him, is the biggest ball of energy that you've ever seen. And Lisa spends much of her days trying to carve out some space amongst that ball of energy and be able to move through the world instead of being consumed by that. So that became really clear, and it was so much fun to watch them interact and to be in a place like Zappos where you were able to see people expressing themselves in new ways and fun ways and really cutting-edge ideologies about how to get people excited about the message that you share. In the process, we happened to be waiting for a taxi cab. And Tom had spoke with Lisa and Yardley in the past and recommended that Lisa run this idea past me. And from then on, it was just a done deal. We made a really solid connection that day, and a year later, that connection was solid enough that we picked up right where we left off with no other communication, and that's all she wrote. It's been just tremendous acceleration of both of our visions since then.
Yeah, and the funny thing is for those that don't know, Yardley is my husband, and I call him handsome, but you can call him Yardley.
He prefers handsome.
Yeah, he prefers handsome. He doesn't usually answer me if I say Yard or Yardley. But one of the things, Kim, that really made it so unique for us is, as well as your knowledge and background, because I know you had so much information in helping other people and creating their marketing and legends for their businesses, but you had a personal story that matched a lot of mine. And I wanted to have you share some of that on how we ended up making this vision for, helping women reclaim their inner peace and power. And because of the challenges with food and eating and weight, a lot of people just don't address the conversation that we're going to have today. So I'm excited about this.
You're right. It's a really, really tough conversation. And at the time that we met, it was not a conversation that I was willing to have openly. It was really unusual for me to have that conversation with you, and I look at it as it must have been meant to be, because for some reason we began talking, and where you struggled with bulimia and anorexia, I struggled on the opposite side of the spectrum with overweight and obesity, and I have always risen to the top in my career without fail, and I was really dumb in college. This is how it started, and I don't know if I've even told you this, but as an 18-year-old college debater, I somehow got in my head that if I looked older, I would win more tournaments. And so I intentionally put on 20 pounds. I don't know what kind of logic for a smart person ever put me on that path, but I was determined that adding a couple of sizes would make me more persuasive, which obviously is just not the truth. But in the process, I did trigger a lot of family tendencies towards overweight and really struggled to get a hold of that. No matter what diet I took, I did fen-phen in the very beginning when it was introduced, ended up with a heart murmur, and the gushing heart that comes as a result of that. I did lose a lot of weight. I got down to a size 6, which for me was really, really low. And loved the look, but just couldn't maintain it. So I gained all the weight back, became pregnant with my first son, and miraculously lost weight while I was pregnant, and then regained it all after his birth because I just couldn't manage the hormones and just struggling with a lot of different things. So after 3 children, I looked at it really hard, and the worst part, I can't believe I'm telling you this stuff right now.
This is awesome because you've never shared this with me.
I know. So I had a kindergartner son and a brand new baby, and I volunteered to go and work at the school with him. And at the time, I was director of instruction for Insight Schools, which was a University of Phoenix sister school for their high school programming. So here I am, this executive. I was the only executive that was allowed to work from a home office. They had made tremendous concessions for me to be able to take on this role. So I go volunteer with the kindergarten class on a field trip, and off to the side, I hear kindergartners picking on my baby because I was fat.
Mm. And what was fat? What was fat, Kim? Like, was fat 20 pounds, 50 pounds? What was fat?
It wasn't anywhere near what I had been or later would be. My highest weight was 240 on a 5'2" frame, so that's plenty. But when I heard them judging my son because of the way that I looked, it was devastating. I can't tell you how long I sobbed, and I'm just not a super emotional person, but having him look at me differently when they said that, because it never came into play for him until they said that. And at that point, I knew I had to get healthier. I had to be able to keep up. 3 boys, you've got to be able to keep up. You can't be lethargic. You can't be low energy. You can't be unfit so that you can't go do all the activities that they want to do. So tried every diet on the planet, guaranteed, and made the choice for surgery. Right.
And, it's when you say you tried every diet on the planet, over what period of time? Would this be a year? Was this over 2-3 years before you made that? Because what was it?
12
years. Because a lot of people think it's like a quick decision. You tried everything, but, over a 12-year period, you can try plenty of diets. And I think some of the key words is try. And, when I even have in the book the 7 secrets of overcoming self-sabotage, the first one is acknowledging the fear and doubt. And I'm sure the time when the kids were making fun of you and worrying about your son, that was the first step. And then the second is taking inventory of life's lessons and beliefs, saying, well, I need to do something. This is actually affecting me, but it's affecting my sons and my family. So that was a huge thing. So when you started looking at other options, surgery there are so many things that people just don't know about it. What made you decide, and I know that when it comes to it, that most of the times they will not do surgery for you, whether it be bypass or lap bands or other things, unless you're over 100 pounds overweight, which you were for your size.
Mm-hmm.
what were some of the things that you had to look at before making that decision, and would you have made the same decision today is another question.
Okay, that's a lot of questions, Lisa.
I know.
All right. So at the time that I was doing it, it was very difficult to get insurance to cover it. But I was determined that they were going to, because I was borderline diabetic. I was having breathing issues that were becoming more and more severe, and I was able to justify all of those prerequisites to be able to qualify for it. Even when you qualify, you still have to go through just a myriad of procedures and tests and qualifications before they'll even allow you to go under for the surgery. So I visited a lot of doctors. I tried every other alternative. I tried, was it Meridia? Does that sound like a diet drug?
I believe, yes.
Yeah, tried Meridia. I tried the, there was a grossest pill that would make a woman turn into a really stinky old man really quick.
Oh,
I can't even remember what it was called, but it was disgusting because it didn't allow any fat to process or digest, and so it just went straight through your system, and you can imagine all of the many embarrassing complications that come from that. But I did try that. I did that too. I tried hypnosis. I tried everything, and it just wasn't happening. And so I researched every possible surgical answer. And at the time, lap bands were fairly new and were getting just rave reviews by all of the medical community. And so that was what I opted for. It was lower risk. It was reversible. It was, at the time, looking like a very moderate solution to a very severe problem. And so that's what I went for. And it was 8 weeks of really serious recovery. It was a total adjustment in lifestyle. I went to I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't even tell my family. I didn't tell anybody that I had done it. It was just my secret. And when people would ask me what I was doing, losing so much weight, I'd say, eating a lot of protein. That was my standard answer because I just didn't think it was any of their business.
Right.
And
I can relate to that.
And I still don't think it was any of their business, but I also think I didn't do myself any favors by trying to hide it. I ended up at an executive retreat, and when you go away on business with groups of people, there are meals involved. And I was not prepared for the ramifications of having to eat with other people because I couldn't. I could take a bite and then I'd be done. And at one point, one of my direct reports asked me if I was anorexic or bulimic or what was wrong with me. And of course I wasn't. But, awkward conversations as a result. And ultimately, it worked for a while, and then it became a health risk.
Right. And you've had a lot of challenges after that, and I think people don't realize that. And like you said, at the time, that was the lowest risk. And as a doctor of research, I mean, your whole background is about research and learning, and to the point of the extent of ridiculous, like you're going to know every nth degree and any other option out there. And you've had challenges since I know you, even, that we've been working through recently to fix the toxicity and other things in your body because of the choices that you've made. So,
sure.
So like, what were some of the things that you have the hardest time? And people don't realize lap band, even what a lap band option is. It's when they actually are tying up part of your stomach so you can't even consume as much, and the amount of, you can't, it's the timing you're eating, but the types of food you're eating. I mean, food can come back up again. Do you want to share some of the challenges that you saw afterwards?
Sure. I did really well with the diet. I was adamant about following the rules because I just didn't. I was determined. I'm competitive. I had to be the best, and so I was the poster child. I did really great, and then I started having health issues with it. And we couldn't get the level of restriction right. So the lap band is a silicone band that you can tighten or loosen based on the amount of fluid inside the band, and it cuts off the ability for you to digest. Well, if you get that too tight, then your stomach acid is alone in a pool, and you're unable to get food down to be able to balance out the pH and the toxicity in your system. Over a period of time, that translates into very severe acid reflux to the point where you almost feel like you're having a heart attack sometimes. I spent 2 years sleeping sitting up because I was unable to lay down.
Wow.
And eventually I gained the weight back because there's workarounds. The thing that will flow through any size of tube is liquid or fats. And when you're starving, you're going to eat anything. And I was starving because I couldn't get proper nutrients down. And so really thick protein shakes, ice creams, chips, were literally my options. Healthier foods like lean meats meant instant vomiting, and not just what you would think of vomiting, but they what do they call that? It is, I can't remember, but it's projectile. It's disgusting and it's uncontrollable and it is painful, really, really painful.
Right. And the hard thing, too, is that, you looked at a really serious decision for what could have been a temporary problem, and even thinking you tried everything, and now I know you've gotten your weight back down, but there were other changes you had to make, and you're still dealing with some of the acid reflux, the other challenges, and we've gotten you on some things that have helped that. But what would you say, we talked about in the past, you and I personally, the fact that they had you go through testing to make sure you're okay with this. And a lot of my clients have been, especially recently, people who, like yourself, who had already had surgeries, either had bypass surgeries or lap band surgeries or other things, but didn't take care of what you said, the other pieces. So can you address any of those? But how we think or things that you had to go through in accepting or even dealing with having to be different with people around in eating situations?
Sure. There is a big gap in treatments for how we think and how we feel and how the body functions. And the fact is that they're so closely intertwined that when we separate them, we really do a disservice to ourselves. And so, unfortunately, the medical community's version of qualifying someone psychologically for surgery is just making sure that they're not suicidal, that they don't have bulimic tendencies. There is very little preparatory work for the shift in your head that will happen. Nobody prepared me to be an executive on parade and having to answer questions about my eating patterns. None of that was addressed. Nutrition for the first few months is discussed, and there is some follow-up, but and again, this is new science. It's not like we've been doing this forever, and we're altering the human body significantly. And the truth is, I would do it again because I feel, look, act so much younger than I did 10 years ago, I would do it again. But being able to understand the components that make us, our triggers, that make us obsessive, like I have been and really continue to be, is a critical component of making that surgery successful. I mean, I had to have emergency surgery to get rid of the lap band that I had invested so much in, both years and dollars and quality of life, and have it changed over to a gastric sleeve, which has been really great for the most part, but even that is new science. And when you modify the biology, the physiology of the human body, there are repercussions that you're not necessarily prepared for, like strange shifts in blood sugar and unexplainable dizzy spells and things that, for example, on the chat boards where it's women and men who have been through a similar procedure, they'll start asking, do you think this might be related? Because it's just not out there. Nobody knows. There's a lot of people anecdotally that have a lot of the same blood sugar symptoms that I do and go into diabetic like coma spaces for hours at a time where they just shut down. And that's scary if you don't understand what's triggering that, because it could be something really, really serious. I mean, it's plenty serious, but it certainly is nerve-wracking, I would say.
Yeah, and I, have a similar story just watching my mom, and that my mom had a similar challenge with obesity and ended up having a duodenal switch done. She was already diabetic and was, at the point where it was life-threatening for other things. She was afraid of getting to the point where she'd lose limbs or sight or other situations that happen for diabetics. And she had this surgery, which was pretty severe and was very scary, too, because you're really rerouting the whole system. And the fears is that, you could start losing it. And also there were other things that I had challenges with, which I still see, is because with her surgery, it gave her, like you said, it gives her permission to have the sugars and the other stuff, and you don't have the nutrients, and you need to get those nutrients in, but if they're not being absorbed, that's a whole nother situation, And, people are even asking, we're getting little questions here, what about trying to gain weight? I know that for most people, it's not about trying to gain, it's about keeping it off. And I see that as a question here. Kim, would you agree?
Yes and no. As we did the research for Your Legend, what we found out is that as women, we have this tendency to really judge ourselves very harshly. And there is just this floating target of what a woman should weigh and what a woman should look like. And it's fiction. So this woman is telling us that she went in less than a year ago from 155 to 110 and can't gain any of it back because she feels like she lost too much. Lisa, you're the expert in that, but I would share that no matter where women seem to land on the scale, they still think something's wrong with them.
Oh, absolutely.
That's inherently the problem that you talk about with Find a Fab, is that we have these unrealistic measures that we put ourselves up against, and none of them are real. They're all just fiction that we've all agreed to as reality.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to actually go to a break in a moment, and what we're going to do when we get back, we're going to pick off where we left off, because I know that we're hitting a nerve that a lot of people are dealing with thinking that there's an answer, or even not being happy at wherever they are now. And we know that one of the biggest challenges is to be happy with where you are at this moment, even if it's not what you think is your ideal weight or size, but to learn to love yourself as you are now so you can make better choices for yourself to be where you eventually want to be, wherever that is, but not what the advertisements and everything else tells us, but what's a healthy weight and size for you. And we're going to go to a break, and I want to remind everybody that if you'd like to call in, you can call in at 561-422-4365. Remember to mute until we acknowledge you, and then you can also Skype in at Women for Women, and it's W4WN Radio. And again, follow me on Facebook, Twitter. Go to findtofab.com. You can also keyword findtofab to 90210 and hit send and be part of our listening group. And again, we'll be back in a moment with Dr. Kim Bonniksen, and we look forward to sharing more.
The Legend People. Wisdom for radically better branding. The Legend People, bringing ancient wisdom for modern transformations. Brain science tells us that 95% of our behavior is controlled by the unconscious mind, where emotions, memories, and habits reside. Legends epitomize the passion that drives us to reach for greatness. We are inspired by those who live true and are willing to endure pain and suffering. Push the limits of what is possible. The Legend People. Wisdom for radically better branding. We offer services that will help you with not only your business, but can change your life. Embracing the thought process of never say I can't, but live by I am the first who ever has. Your legend makes you lead when others choose to follow. You create when others consume. You hear music when others hear noise. The Legend People offers marketing research, marketing consultation, legend design, branding, project development, and more. The Legend People serves as a support arm to businesses and consultants across the globe. Log on to our website and find out more. www.legendpeople.com. That's www.legendpeople.com. Log on now to www.legendpeople.com.
Now that I have your attention, ladies, when you need help breaking through the barriers that weigh you down, turning to food is not going to help, and starving yourself along with ongoing feelings of helplessness and frustration will not help either. The cycle of self-sabotage, disordered eating, and stinking thinking has to stop, and there is no better way than with other smart, business-savvy women like you who are making the change with best-selling author, licensed master NLP practitioner, and trusted guide, Lisa Lieberman-Wang of Find2Fab.com. Lisa will help you get that breakthrough you've been waiting for. Go to Find2Fabshow.com right now for all the details of the life-changing 10-week transformational program and the special listeners promotion. It's time to turn your life from feeling fine to being fab. Fabulous, awesome, beautiful. Go to Find2Fabshow.com now.
Welcome back. I'm Lisa Lieberman-Wang, and we have my guest here, Dr. Kim Bonniksen, and we've been talking about everything from weight challenges to choices that we make, whether it be lap band or gastric sleeves and bypasses, the challenges, the benefits, the things that you don't hear about, which is so important to actually acknowledge and understand the risks of what we make as choices, but also how it's going to affect our living and our life and our family and other things that we do afterwards. And we were just talking, too, about, when people get to a goal weight or what they think is the right weight, that today what's a standard, and what we've even learned when I had Kim do my legend for Find to Fab, which is actually a marketing model. We did a lot of research and checked through millions of information out there and studies to see what it is that's happening. One of the biggest things that we found were, there's a standard that's been set, and it hasn't been set by any one of us other than advertising, promotions, media, telling us how we're supposed to look, what the ideal body weight is, what the ideal size is, and we've, as women at least, and we know it's for not as much for men, but women are always on diets, a $1 trillion industry, have made our days and our decisions whether we're okay based on, do we look like that model, are we skinny enough, are we pretty enough, what do we need to do, liposuction, Botox, it's like surgeries to look a certain way, to be a certain way. And I think that those standards are really what's hurt us, what's healthy. And, Kim, we were just talking because you have so much research that you had done for me, and I'm still 500 pages later, still digesting it all. So do you want to add anything to that?
It's such an important study. We've had this conversation before. There is a trend that I am seeing come so powerfully that women are really taking the lead in a way that we have not done historically for at least many, many years. I have always worked surrounded by men in whatever executive role I have had until founding this company, the Legend People. It's always been men at the top of the game, and I was just stuck in the middle with them. And what I am seeing now is that there are so many powerful women out there that are really ready to share their message, and they are ready to take business and take society in a whole new direction that has the twist of what we as women are able to offer intellectually and intuitively. But unfortunately, when we talk about the glass ceiling and being able to overcome those discrepancies in pay, in opportunity, what the research has shown is that it's really a stainless steel ceiling that we keep hitting our head on, and that we have constructed it ourselves in many cases because we set ourselves up to this impossible standard, and then we always feel less than. We feel fine when from the outside and from everyone else looking objective at us, we're really fab. We're fabulous. We're awesome. We're beautiful. We're powerful women. And until we are able to recognize those qualities in ourselves, we put that ceiling above us, and we won't let ourselves get past it.
Yeah, and a lot of the studies that totally blew me away was, the reality is that it was income levels we found were affected by the size of the person. Like women made less money or more money based on their size. And it wasn't just one example, but there was actually studies done to prove this, whether they wear makeup or not, how they were perceived by the market. And, if they wore makeup, they made more money than if they didn't wear makeup. That totally blew me away. I mean, I can understand it for some things, but you would think that the quality of work would outweigh the look. But today, again, it's perception, and we have to be aware of what people are doing out there. And the perception also is, I always remember this, no matter where I was actually at one point in my life 20-something pounds heavier, and I've also been, believe it or not, almost 15 pounds later. I was as low as, I don't even know what I am now, but I was as low as 95 pounds and as much as 125 or 28 pounds, and I'm only 5'2". And the funny thing, no matter where I was, it was always I had to lose 5 pounds. It didn't matter where. I always had to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds or something. But yet there are women that are so grossly overweight and have already made that glass, I like how you said the glass ceiling to steel. They've already kind of, I want to say put themselves in a coffin because they don't think they're ever going to measure up. And that's a bigger challenge to me, too, because, the fine is how I used to feel. I used to always say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And it meant I feel effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And the challenge is that a lot of people do return to fine and accept mediocrity, and instead of knowing, as you said, that they're already fabulous, awesome, and beautiful. And when our size is being affected by what we see out there with models, saying that we have to be a size 02, and other studies even showing that what they did in the fashion industry, this blew me away, that they've already added inches to sizes so that we can feel like we're a smaller size, but America's getting bigger all the time. It's not changing. I think that there's a reality that, about how people take care of themselves and to stop the diets. And I know that we worked on that with Fine to Fab because I don't even talk about food in a 10-week program. I mean, food doesn't come up until the end because it has nothing to do with food. It has everything to do with how you feel about yourself at that moment now that you'll even take care of yourself and make better choices.
The fascinating component is that inside the same group are women that struggle with overeating and women that won't eat. And the issues are so overlapping, and we learn so much from one another that it works really well, whereas nobody would have ever put those groups together before.
Right, because they would have thought they had different problems, but it always goes down to the core thing is I'm not enough. And if I'm not enough, I won't be loved. And if, and then instead you have that connection with food that you have with no other. And even the deprivation of not having food is still a controlled issue. And I think the irony that most people don't understand, and they think that people that are overweight or and stuff, I think that was funny. You said, I'm going to be heavier. They'll think I'm smarter or I'll win more debates. It was funny when you said that because most people that are conflicted with this dis-ease with oneself, not feeling good about themselves, are usually very bright individuals. And I haven't met one that wasn't. Type A personalities, where they're perfectionists, everything has to be right, but this is one piece where you have this misnomer where you think you have control over it, but you have none. And it's because it's like that's your go-to. It becomes a go-to. And it's like this forbidden fruit. We don't talk about it. We think, oh, someone's just fat. And, I remember I was working with one of my clients, and you know who I'm talking about when I share it without saying it, and she actually shared it on one of the shows, but where she told me for the longest time, I don't eat anything. And she was literally going from starvation, being grossly overweight and needing to lose a lot of weight, needing to lose over 100 pounds. And she found out, as things are going on, and as I said, please just journal what you're eating and how you feel. And first, I'm getting phone calls. I'm an emotional eater. She just never counted the ones that happened on the binge. She only counted when she was eating normal, but after something happened and so she finds herself in front of the cabinet or just inhaled everything in the fridge, she says, "Oh my God, I'm an emotional eater." I said, none of us get fat from not eating. It's still garbage in, garbage out. If we don't put anything in, we're not just going to blow up. We have to put something in, Yeah. There's very few people that get heavy by just air. That might be a medical problem, but not many, So so that's another piece. And what would be some of the lessons you've learned, even if you've gone through the Find to Fab program, what would be some of your takeaways that you learned to even make it easier for yourself now not to be challenged with different things that you don't have to repeat your history again?
We've talked about this a few times, and so I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me is the power of our words, both internally and externally. And when we are continually self-critical, then we create this self-fulfilling prophecy in which we will remain stuck. Whereas if we can forgive ourselves and see the beauty that we are and dress ourselves in a way that we are proud of who we are, then the other things tend to fall in place. When we're comfortable and we're happy, it's a lot easier to tackle the challenges that are out there. Right.
And that's one of the things where people say, I'll get new clothes when I lose X amount of weight, or I'll do this when I lose this, and being able to do things now and not dressing for I can't dress because I don't look good, but you can look good at any size. But to have to take care of yourself at this moment where you are and to love yourself enough to do that. And, I think one of the great things I've also heard before is, talk to yourself as if it's your best friend talking to you. And, I always say take care of your mother's daughter. But I also heard talk to yourself as if you're your best friend giving you advice. Because your best friend would never say to you, you're fat, would never say to you, you're stupid, right? Your best friends would never do that to us. Mm-hmm. So if we were to have that same conversation as if it's our best friend talking to us, how different would that be for so many people, right?
It's been pretty transformational for me because I totally fit in that perfectionist, have to get it right all the time, the fastest, the best. And when I was unable to have any control over this, it was devastating.
Yeah. And I think one of the things is that it's not just, people will think it's one aspect of our life, but it does come to everything from body, mind, spirit. It comes to different variables that we need to do to take care of ourselves, from what we're saying to ourselves, breaking the trance, changing the toxic meanings and emotions, uncovering the patterns that we have that put us back there. But one of the things that I always love to share with people, and I think it's sometimes it's my second step, but I like to make it my first sometimes, is practicing gratitude, for what you have right now. And I think a lot of people are so angry about what they don't have, or that's all they know how to talk about. But to be from a place of gratitude where you appreciate anything, like every day above ground's a good day, and taking it from that perspective is totally important. And, Kim, one of the things that I've been working with you on is sharing this mission and creating a movement to help women reclaim their inner peace and power. And it's been through the help of the Legend people to do that. So I want you just to talk about that, because we only have a couple minutes before we close, and then talk about how the Legend people is helping other businesses get their word out.
Would love to. So the mantra for the Legend people is, we believe there are legends among us who we stand ready to serve. And we have seen Lisa as a legend from the very beginning phases, and seek to support her as a trusted guide, and find those secret paths that will enable her to communicate her mission to the greatest audience, to make it very clear and powerful, so that there is an understanding that we all have the right to be in a space where we feel legendary, we feel the appreciation of others around us, and we're able to fulfill the potential that we were brought on this earth to be. And unfortunately, when there's dragons that come and infringe on our own personal mission, oftentimes we need a guide to be able to help us see literally the forest through the trees, and figure out how to get through it and find our own happily ever after, where we are the successful woman and we can enjoy it. Because most of us have achieved a great deal of success. It's just this one area that we keep battling in, and when we're able to see it in a realistic perspective and deal with it on that level, then we're able to communicate both with our words and by the example that we set, that there is a path of much greater peace and power for all of us out there.
And awesome. And the Legend people, you can go to www.legendpeople.com and connect with Kim personally, as well as check out her book, Aesop, Ancient Master of Persuasion. It's on Amazon by Dr. Kimberly Bonniksen. And remember to follow us on www.findtofabshow.com. Weekly live radio every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And we're excited to be able to bring this message out to other people and realize that every one of you are your own legend, and it's your responsibility to make sure that the next generation doesn't have to deal with the dragons Kim just talked about, and can just live their happily ever after sooner than later. So again, I want to thank you for being here, and Kim, I want to thank you for being an awesome guest and sharing your story that's going to help millions, because we need to have that unspoken conversation. Thank you for your honesty and openness with me and everyone else. Okay, so remember to follow our community, be an active member by keywording Find to Fab to 90210, hit send. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn at Lisa Lieberman-Wang. And until next week, remember, you're fab, fabulous, awesome, beautiful. Have a great day.
Hey there, this is your life talking to you. Yes, I know it's unusual. You think that you are just living your life, but now here I am. I just had to speak up if you and I are going to have the best. Yes, you've had some success with me, but you know things could be better. I know how tough it's been to fight depression and the habits that lead you to self-sabotage and disordered eating. I applaud you for all the professional and self-help remedies that you have tried so far. But let's face it, they haven't worked. But it's not your fault. I know. I was there, remember? It's time that you listen to me for a change. I want you to go to www.findtofabshow.com and find out how best-selling author Lisa Lieberman-Wang can make me your life fabulous. Right now, Lisa is offering a 10-week transformational program for us. Mention the show and we'll get a really great discount. Hey, I'd go online and do it for us, but I don't have any fingers. So go ahead and go to www.findtofabshow.com and let's make the changes we need today so we can have a better tomorrow.